In the spring of 2001, I received a box of old newspapers from a lady who was downsizing. In that box I found a letter from a captured Lambton soldier written to one Ann Callum in Corunna from a POW camp in Germany. The letter was written by a soldier named Densham. More about that letter shortly. Soon after I read the letter, there was a knock on my door. When I answered, a young lady introduced herself as Ann Callum. Imagine my shock. A few hours before I had read the letter written 75 years ago to a lady named Ann Callum. A lady born, according to my research, in 1869. A lady who, if she was at my door, must be now more than 130 years of age. When I recovered from the shock I was feeling, I invited the lady in and explained what had happened a few hours previously. She laughed and told me that her husband's last name was Callum, and that the Ann Callum in the letter was her husband's great aunt. Too bad, I thought. It would have been so wonderful to have received a letter or a visit from the other Ann Callum. Just imagine the questions I might have asked. Ann Callum was born in Moore Township in 1869. Her parents, Duncan Callum and Margaret Martin, married in Nairn County in Scotland about 1806, moved to Lambton County about 1830. One of their children, Donald Callum, born in 1816, married Mary Ford Rainsbury in 1859 here in Lambton. They had 3 daughters, Margaret, Anne, and Mary. When World War I began in August of 1914, Ann Callum was a member of the Providence Women's Institute. With many other ladies belonging to the women's institutes of her day, she helped to gather material for parcels to send overseas to local boys serving during World War I in defense of freedom. Now back to the letter written on December 31st, 1916, to the other Ann Callum. By the time she received the letter, it must have been several weeks later during the early months of 1917. Listen in on the thoughts and words of Albert Densham, a prisoner of war that New Year's Eve in a POW camp in Germany. Material from the past such as this help us to gain a true glimpse of the moral values of the time as seen through the eyes of someone who experienced them firsthand. The first part of this story is in the form of a letter written on New Year's Eve, December 31st, 1916, to Ann Callum. This is what was written by this soldier imprisoned by the enemy. Dear Ann, just a line in answer to your kind letter and parcel which I received a few days ago. I also send my best appreciation and thanks to the Women's Institute for thinking of me at all, as everybody must nearly have forgotten of me, being away so long and not having the chance to write to any of them. I hope you're keeping well, as I am in the pink of health now. Say you spoke about being able to see me past your house, like I used to. Well, I hope your wish is fulfilled before 1918. Also, I think by what I hear, Stanley is growing up and running away with all the pretty girls, while I am a prisoner. Say, Ann, I had forgotten all about using the phone, but as it is, if God allows me to return, I can do so with my head up, saying I went and suffered from wounds and hardships for my country. I also did my duty while a lot of others have not done yet, because they are afraid. Say I am enclosing a photo of myself and a chum from Western Canada. It is not first class, but it gives you a little idea of what I look like at present. Well, thank you and the Institute for the packet once more. So bye-bye, I remain yours sincerely, J. Densham. After reading this letter, I picked up 4 postcards from that box. They had no written messages on them, but showed soldiers in their uniforms who must have known Ann Callum. Many of the boys back then had these cards made up for their family and friends before they shipped out overseas. One of them showed Alfred in his uniform. Next to them were 2 postcards addressed with written messages to Ann Callum from soldiers overseas during World War I. Each of these had a colorful hand-embroidered scene on the front. One postcard sent from France, April 15, 1916, by A.S. Turnbull, displays the national flag, a crown, and photos of Albert and Elizabeth, the King and Queen of Belgium. The other postcard sent from France, August 6, 1917, has a bouquet of flowers and greenery tied together by a multicolored bow, which incorporates all of the flags of the Allied countries fighting at the time against Germany. The parcels and letters they received were the only link to home for the captured soldiers, who spent up to 4 years in captivity before being released. After receiving this letter, Ann Callum likely doubled her efforts on behalf of these men who were so far from home, fighting for the freedom of all in Canada.